Google, the most trusted brand in the world. Google has never been the victim of a massive data breach that affected its users. In addition, its search engine is not perceived to be amplifying divisive content or misinformation in the way other social platforms are. It has also avoided the criticism leveled at some tech companies for prioritizing profits over the well-being of its users. Even YouTube, which arguably does that, stays mostly above the fray, and thus above the level of scrutiny that its peers face. So yes, Google has the same privacy concerns as other companies that collect your information, but the average user rarely considers it. There is a reason for this, and it's quite simple. Google is the default in many people's lives. That single word has enormous power and is even more valuable in business. So if Google is the most trusted brand worldwide, let's get into the video to know, and if you are a tech enthusiast who doesn't want fake or false knowledge about tech and gadgets, subscribe to Techist now. Here we go. Most people use Google as their default search engine. It is the standard email service. It is the standard web browser. It's where people go to get directions, find a nearby restaurant, or make travel arrangements. For most people, Google is a utility because they use Google services without thinking about it, other than the fact that it's the place to go for all the important pieces of their personal tech stack. Google Search is a prime example. Google Search has a 92% market share and a 100% market share when answering the question, where do I find information about anything? The obvious and default answer is Google it. Although Apple produces the world's most popular smartphone, the iPhone is not the standard. Most people would never purchase an iPhone or a Mac. Many would prefer to shop at Target rather than Amazon. Similarly, many people believe that Amazon is destroying smart businesses and making an intentional decision to shop locally as often as possible. Sure, Apple is the most valuable company in the world, and Amazon is the world's largest online shopping website, but neither is the default in the same way that Google is. For example, very few people use Microsoft's Bing search engine, and those who do are apparently looking for Google. What makes Google the most trusted brand? Google answers hold merit. A whopping 61% of survey respondents said they believe Google's medical answers are verified by medical professionals. This is concerning and alarming because the content that Google returns from medical search queries may contain answers that medical professionals have not reviewed. When searching for something like COVID-19 symptoms, Google prioritizes content from reliable sources like the CDC. However, this does not mean that all medical content ranked by Google has been reviewed by a medical professional. Another key statistic is the role of politicians and social media platforms in protecting users' online privacy. For example, 44% of survey respondents blame politicians for not doing enough to protect citizens online, while 73% blame social media companies for not fact-checking their own content. Google has passionate users. Google is not only one of the most trusted companies, but also one of the top tech companies in terms of instilling passion in its users. Most survey respondents would say they like Google's products and services and would care very much if the company went away tomorrow. Favoring social media regulation. Nearly 62% of Americans want more regulations on social media and search companies. But when asked who should regulate tech and online companies, 30% of survey respondents said it should be an independent body of experts. This is in stark contrast to current regulations, where regulators include the Federal Trade Commission or FTC, the executive branch, and state and house legislators. What are the branding lessons Google teaches us? Create a culture of innovation that embraces failure. Despite Google's unparalleled success with a wide range of technological innovations, they've had their fair share of flops. But more intriguingly, Google is one of the few companies to celebrate its failures and advocate for a work culture that does not fear making mistakes. Despite being one of the world's largest organizations that understand where the business value is, they are committed to continuous innovation throughout the organization, regardless of core business success. Credibility of your customers comes first. The original mission of Google's founders, Sergey Brin and Larry Page, was to bring order to what was quickly becoming a chaotic, exponentially growing mass of information during the internet's Wild West, which was a risky move. However, long before many of their competitors, the company recognized that internet users must trust the information they receive, and algorithms need to be made that prioritize user experience. Despite the early days search engine competitors' meteoric success, Google did not rest on their laurels. Instead, they were relentless in pursuing their efforts to build and maintain trust with their users, whether promoting a privacy-first web or branching out into offering additional services like Maps or Drive, which many of us rely on daily. While products and services come and go, credibility remains consistent. Focus on building with your customer base, and whatever solution you provide, it will have a greater impact than anything your marketing budget can concoct. UX is king. It's safe to say that Google understands the importance of user experience. From an SEO standpoint, they practically wrote the book on it. Google sets the standard for great user experience, from loading performance and security to mobile friendliness and interactivity. Whether they like it or not, businesses must follow suit in order to climb the search ranking ladder and get their websites in front of customers' eyes. Google describes its UX approach as a guiding principle with the mantra "focus on the user and the rest will follow," outlining an attitude that every decision should serve the user first and everything else second, including their own bottom line. Whether taken literally or not, you can't deny that a good user experience is at the heart of many of Google's services. Maintain a balance between brand consistency and brand flexibility. While it's easy to overlook when you're focused on the product or services, your brand's visual identity can be invaluable when leaving a lasting impression on your audience. This is because humans are visual beings, and recognition is essential. On the other hand, Google has avoided launching multiple rebrands, also known as brand makeovers, in an attempt to obtain and appeal to new audience, a strategy commonly used in the tech world as a brand's product and services evolve. Google has used the same visual design since its inception in 1998, with an iconically simple multicolor logo. It not only builds long-term brand awareness, but it also builds credibility across its ever-expanding product portfolio. The simplicity of Google's logo and the company's persistence with multicolor branding has allowed the company to deftly stamp its brand presence across a range of different services, building a degree of brand cohesion across a list of products that, on the surface, may have nothing in common other than the shared brand identity. Despite this degree of consistency, they are flexible and frequently incorporate an element of their playfulness into the visual branding that tap into current trends and seamlessly integrate their brand into popular culture. Regarding Google's track record of acquiring other companies, a process that can all too easily turn into a messy and chaotic affair from a branding standpoint, they've had a knack for recognizing the importance of established branding and knowing when to avoid an unnecessary rebrand. They could have easily played the sourpuss and flexed their brand muscles over their competitor-turned-partner by adopting a "if you can't beat them, join them" mentality to the competition after their own Google videos failed to establish itself as a viable alternative. Rather, the "if it ain't broke, don't fix it" approach to Google's post-acquisition branding proved a wise choice. What do you think about Google as the most trusted brand? Want to know some Google products? Well, stay tuned for our next video, and don't forget to subscribe.